Sometimes life breaks in a single moment, and you stand there holding pieces you never knew could shatter so fast. Even now, whenever I close my eyes, I feel the same cold fear that entered my bones on the day everything changed. I did not know that morning that my whole world would slide into darkness before the sun even crossed the sky. Before I begin, please tell me where you are watching or reading from, so we can stay connected like a family and keep praying for one another. Your presence here matters more than you know. My name is Daniel Musa, and this part of the story happened on March 18, 2017, when I was 29 years old. I lived with my wife, Amina, in a small village that looked peaceful from the outside, but carried hidden storms inside its walls. Life was simple. The sound of children running around, the smell of firewood in the evening, and the hope that tomorrow would always be better than today. But all that hope died the day the soldiers came. I still remember standing outside our home, watching a line of dust rise from the road. People around me began to whisper and move back, as if the air itself was warning us to hide. The soldiers arrived with a kind of force that made the ground seem weaker under my feet. Their eyes carried something wild, something empty, something dangerous. My heart began to beat faster, and I felt Amina's hand tremble as she stood behind me. Everything about that moment felt dark, even though the sun was shining. They moved from house to house, shouting demands, dragging men outside, pushing women aside, and searching every corner like they owned the world. I kept telling myself to stay calm, but deep inside, fear was twisting like a knife. Amina whispered to me that something was terribly wrong. She told me she felt a shadow over us. And I knew she was right. When the soldiers reached our home, I stepped forward trying to be brave. I tried to show respect, hoping they would just search and leave. But one of them pushed me aside like I was nothing. Two others grabbed Amina, and she screamed my name, not in words, but in a way that cut through my soul. I tried to run toward her, but a soldier struck me, hard enough that the world spun. I fell to the ground, tasting dust and fear at the same time. I heard Amina calling out for me. I heard her telling me she needed me. I heard her voice breaking in a way I had never heard before, and I could not reach her. I could not save her. My legs felt useless, my arms weak, my voice trapped inside my chest. The soldiers dragged her away while I lay there helpless, watching the woman I loved disappear into the hands of men who carried no mercy in their eyes. Nothing in my life had ever hurt like that moment. By the time the soldiers left, the village was filled with cries. Some people sat on the ground, others ran around trying to find missing family members. A neighbor came to me and told me he saw where they took Amina. He revealed that the place was known for suffering, the kind that crushes the heart long before the body. His words sank into me like cold water. I stood up slowly, feeling pain in every part of me, but nothing hurt as much as the emptiness beside me where Amina should have been. I kept thinking of her gentle smile, her quiet strength, the way she would encourage me whenever life felt heavy. Now she was somewhere in darkness, and I could not breathe knowing she was alone. That night, I did not sleep. I couldn't. I kept seeing her face in my mind, kept hearing her voice calling for help. I prayed even though I felt abandoned. I cried even though I tried to stay strong. I walked around the village all night, looking toward the road the soldiers took, hoping for a miracle that never came. Persecution is not just violence. It is the slow breaking of the heart. It is the feeling of being buried alive in fear. And yet, this was only the beginning. The true darkness came after this night, and so did the light I never expected. That morning, the sky looked dull, almost as if the clouds knew what had happened. I stepped outside and saw neighbors sitting in groups, their faces filled with worry. Some told me their husbands were missing. Others revealed that daughters and sisters had been dragged away by the same soldiers. Everyone looked lost. Everyone looked broken. I felt like our whole village was wounded at the same time. I went to the place an old man had shown me the night before, a small abandoned building near the outskirts of the forest. He had revealed that the soldiers always stopped there first when they captured villagers. My legs felt weak as I walked toward it. I kept imagining what Amina might be facing, and every thought stabbed deeper than the one before. When I reached the building, I saw marks on the ground, footprints, ropes, torn cloth, and signs that people had struggled. It felt like the air itself was carrying the cries of those who had been there. Nothing graphic was in front of me, but the atmosphere was enough to make my heart ache. It was a place filled with fear and silent pain. A woman from another village stood nearby. She had also come to look for her family member. She told me that she was taken once before but had escaped. She revealed things that made my heart tighten. She explained how the soldiers kept people there for hours, treating them with cruelty, pushing them, shouting at them, denying them water, and mocking their tears. She described how the soldiers enjoyed breaking the strength of anyone who believed differently or refused to bow to their pressure. She never gave details that were too sensitive, but the fear in her eyes said more than her words. The way her hands shook showed me she had survived something deep and painful. The day after I found Amina's scarf, I felt a strange pull in my heart, almost like someone was guiding me. I did not understand it, but I followed it because everything else felt empty. The village was still silent from fear. People kept their doors half closed, their eyes looking at the ground, their hearts beating like drums. Everyone was wounded in one way or another. I decided to walk toward the edge of the forest. Normally, I would never go there alone, but pain makes a person do things they would never do on a normal day. The trees stood tall and quiet, and the wind sounded like someone whispering a warning. With every step, I felt both fear and courage fighting inside me. As I moved deeper into the forest, I saw signs that the soldiers had used that place recently. Broken branches, empty cans, footprints, and a rope hanging loosely from a tree. Nothing graphic, but enough to tell me that people had suffered here. I imagined how those taken must have felt, cold, hungry, scared, wishing to be rescued, wondering if anyone cared. My chest grew heavy, thinking Amina might have passed through this exact path. I kept walking until I heard a soft sound, like someone breathing in pain. I stopped, afraid it could be a trap, but something in me insisted I go closer. Under a fallen tree branch, I found a young man lying on the ground. His clothes were dirty, his face covered with dust and dried tears. He looked weak, like someone who had fought too long and had nothing left. When he noticed me, he raised his hand slowly, asking silently for help. I knelt beside him, and he began to tell me what he had been through. He explained that he had been captured the day before, taken with a group of villagers, and made to suffer through long hours of cruelty. He revealed how the soldiers mocked them, pushed them around, kept them in harsh positions, and treated them like they had no worth. He said they were denied rest, denied water, and sometimes kept under the sun until they felt their skin burn. Again, nothing graphic, but the emotional weight was crushing. I could see the pain written on his body. I could feel the fear shaking in his voice. I understood that persecution was more than physical harm. It was a deep attack on someone's dignity, identity, and hope. He told me something else, something that made my heart jump. He revealed that among the people captured with him, there was a woman who kept whispering prayers, even when she was crying. He said she spoke softly, asking God to protect her husband and give her strength. He showed me with his hand how she clutched a small cloth, trying to stay brave. I knew it immediately. That woman was Amina. A strange warmth filled my chest, fear mixed with hope, pain mixed with strength. It was the first time since she was taken that I felt a small light inside me. The young man said he managed to escape when the soldiers got distracted. He explained that the group, including Amina, had been moved to an old warehouse on the other side of the forest. He revealed details about the location, how the building looked, how many soldiers were guarding it, and how some prisoners were forced to stay outside in the cold as a way of breaking their spirit. None of it was easy to hear. I felt tears in my eyes as he spoke. But every word he shared also gave me direction. For the first time, I had a clear idea of where Amina was. Before I left, the young man held my hand and showed me with his eyes that I should not give up. He made me understand that even though he had suffered deeply, he still believed that God could save people from impossible places. As I walked away, something strange happened. I felt calm. I had been drowning in fear for days, but now I felt a quiet voice inside me saying that I was not alone. I could not explain it. I could not describe it. It was like a warm light pushing back the darkness, step by step. I realized later that this was the beginning of something divine, something I did not expect and did not fully understand. A rescue I could never have imagined was already on its way. The night grew cold as I walked back home, but for the first time since Amina was taken, my heart was not cold with it. I held her scarf tightly and whispered a silent promise to keep searching, no matter the cost. I did not know it then, but Jesus was already writing a new chapter in our story. A chapter that would change everything. There are some moments in life when the darkness becomes so heavy that you begin to think it will swallow you completely. But sometimes, right when everything inside you feels ready to break, a light appears, small at first, but strong enough to pull your heart back to life. That's what happened on the night that changed everything for me and Amina. After the young man showed me the direction of the warehouse, I could not sit still. My legs kept shaking from fear, but something stronger kept pushing me forward. It felt like an invisible hand was pulling me toward the place where my wife was held. The forest was quiet as I walked, but every step carried a heavy echo inside my chest. When I reached the warehouse area, I hid behind a fallen tree and observed. The building looked old, with broken windows and rusted metal sheets that rattled whenever the wind blew. 2 soldiers stood outside, their weapons hanging carelessly, their expressions showing no sign of mercy. Even from a distance I could feel the coldness around them. It was a place where hope did not usually survive. My heart tightened as I imagined Amina inside, tired, cold, hungry, afraid. I thought about all she must have suffered since the day she was taken. Long hours under harsh orders, cruel punishments meant to break her spirit, shouting meant to frighten her. The heavy loneliness of being surrounded by people who treated her like nothing. Nothing graphic, just deep emotional suffering that no human deserves. I remembered how she always encouraged me whenever life became difficult. She once told me that faith was not the absence of fear, but the courage to walk through fear with trust. I held on to those words now. As I waited for the right moment to move, something strange happened. A warm, gentle feeling spread through my chest. It felt like someone placed a comforting hand on my back. I did not hear anything with my ears, but my heart felt a whisper telling me that I was not alone. The feeling was so soft, yet so strong that tears filled my eyes. At that same moment, the soldiers outside suddenly walked away from the gate. One went toward the bushes, the other toward the opposite side of the building, as if something unseen had pulled their attention away. It was so sudden and so perfect that I knew it wasn't ordinary. I understood immediately, this was the hand of Jesus. My fear melted into courage. I rushed forward, pushed the door slightly, and slipped inside. The air was cold and filled with the heavy smell of dust. The inside of the warehouse was dim, with only a little light coming from a cracked window. I could hear quiet sobs and weak breathing. People sat on the floor, tied loosely, exhausted from long hours of suffering. Some lifted their heads when they heard me enter, their eyes filled with the kind of pain that stays with a person for life. Then I saw her. Amina sat near the wall, her clothes dirty, her face tired, her body weak from everything she had endured. But even in that condition, I saw a tiny spark in her eyes, like a flame refusing to die. When she saw me, she covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed with shock and relief. She could barely stand, so I rushed to her and held her gently. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered things only my heart could hear. She told me how she cried every night. She revealed how soldiers forced them into harsh positions for long hours, how they were denied rest, mocked for praying, and controlled with fear. Nothing graphic, but the emotional pain was deep enough to break anyone's strength. She showed me with her trembling hands how close she had come to giving up. But she also told me something that made my heart almost stop. She shared that the previous night, when she felt she was about to collapse, she saw a bright light in the corner of the room. Too bright for any lamp, too soft for fire, too peaceful to be ordinary. She explained that the light felt alive, like someone was standing there watching over her. She said the presence gave her she could not explain, and she felt warmth in her chest, just like I did. I knew instantly it was the same divine presence that guided me. Before we left, The ropes that held the prisoners loosened easily, almost as if someone had touched them before I arrived. Many were able to stand, and even though they were weak, they felt a strange energy pushing them forward. As we snuck out, the soldiers remained distracted, still unaware of our escape. It felt like an invisible shield was covering us. By the time we reached the forest, the moonlight fell on Amina's face, and she looked at me with eyes full of tears. Tears of relief, tears of survival, tears of being rescued by a power far greater than any human force. That night, we didn't just escape the soldiers. We walked into a miracle only Jesus could have written. And from that moment, everything in our lives began to change. Please, I encourage you, pray for believers around the world who face persecution. Many suffer quietly, holding on to faith with tears in their eyes. Your prayers might be the strength they need to keep going. A simple prayer for anyone who wants to receive Jesus. If you want to turn from sin and begin a new life with Jesus, you can say this from your heart. Lord Jesus, I come to you today. I know I am a sinner and I need your mercy. Please forgive me, wash me, and make me new. I believe you died for me and rose again. From today, I choose to follow you. Help me live the life you want for me. Amen. If you prayed that, I welcome you into the family of faith.